There is a war happening for your soul, and it's happening right now. I'll mention some of the usual suspects from social media, AI, cheap, easy porn, and that Netflix queue that you'll never quite finish. Hollow stimulation. But what I'm speaking to and speaking about is far deeper. These are not the disease. This is not where the war is taking place. These are symptoms of something far more deep and far more ancient. A slow erosion of the human spirit. Every single time you open your phone, you have a million mini influencers or wannabe icons telling you that they have the solution to fix your pathetic, broken life. It's as though there's a dark force keeping you from doing anything that actually feels spiritually fulfilling with your brief life. And as I sat down to write this script, looking at a blank page, with my fingers on the keyboard, I would feel that vortex, that gravity, pulling me away from the deep inner whisper that I had been called to write these words. The devil doesn't so much sit on my shoulder as he does possess my bloodstream and my nervous system. Yeah, you got a few sentences down. Good job. Now go watch some YouTube videos about sports or news or video games or something. But I'm not writing this. I'm not saying these words to offer the same prepackaged approach to getting your dopamine receptors recalibrated. I'm not going to pitch some bullshit coaching program so I can get rich off of your insecurities. I felt called to ask, what happens when you actually sit in a moment of silence? I want to dive deeper into why you feel a constant need to be pulled away from the joy that may be available to you for only the price of a pen. Why do you feel that pang of disillusionment start to sink in before that next notification pops up? I want to speak to the quiet ache, that sense in you that life is in so many ways wrong. There is a war happening. It's a war for our souls. It's not a new war either. It's as ancient as the scriptures. It's the war that's been waged by artists, mystics, and spiritual truth seekers for ages. And as I started this video, mentioning that the message is not about the mass stimulation being the great Satan, these issues are grotesque manifestations of the true demon that shows up in many forms throughout all ages. Our current war's frontline is not only being pushed through major tech conglomerations, but the thousands of surface cuts that we inflict upon ourselves daily through the small erosion of our will. The war is for depth. The war is for less. The war is for your soul itself. And each day we are offered more and more ways to abdicate our will. AI will now craft your newsletter, your YouTube script, even a screenplay to voice yourself in a way that certainly feels authentic. We're willing to abdicate the sacred and difficult process that we find when we dig in and make our own work for a result that looks like we actually did something. This is the dehumanizing dystopia, and it's happening right now if you allow it. Now, distractions, despite what you may think, did not certainly become a reality in this world with the invention of the iPhone. One of the most renowned writers of the 90s and 2000s was David Foster Wallace. And he wrote the iconic books such as Infinite Jest and Consider the Lobster. He spoke frequently about the art form of writing and what is holding so many writers back from writing their best quality. He also lamented of his own ability to focus himself on his greatest purpose, which was to write. In fact, he admitted he could not have a television in his home because he would find himself too easily distracted with banal daytime television. So if you think this is a problem that is one of just current Technology, it's not. This goes back even further to ages that we would now assume are quaint. If we let ourselves, we shall always be waiting for some distraction or other to end before we can really get down to our work. The only people who achieve much are those who want knowledge so badly that they seek it while the conditions are still unfavorable. Favorable conditions never come. So whether it's in 2025 with notifications popping off, or the 1940s when a visionary author dreamt up the fantastical realm of Narnia, all without the Pinterest board for his inspiration, the lure away from our soul's calling will always be present. Even in 1925, there was an invention called the isolator helmet. Check this out, which was designed to help people reduce distractions and focus off their work. 1925. Was the local pony show just like too thrilling not to watch? So there are tons of books and podcasts that are talking about disciplines, efficiencies, and flow states. But in many ways, these life hacks and disciplines are making us strangely more robotic as we strive to be more and more efficient. We're becoming less human. The issue isn't that we have basically created an IV drip of dopamine from the moment you wake up, although this is an epidemic. And it's not that we need to hack ourselves into monster productivity. The villain that we struggle against and that we are at war against is the same spiritual monster that has been pulling at the heart of all seekers through all ages. Underneath the doom scrolling, the junk food, the porn compulsion is the insatiable appetite for more. More everything, more anything. More knowledge, more excitement, more pleasure, more opportunities, even more spirituality. Paradoxically, the more pleasure that we pursue, the more pain we feel. So again, we will look for some external joy to pleasure ourselves away from the cry of the spirit. Yet, the discomfort that we could allow ourselves to feel when we say no to more is your initiation into the truth of the self. By stuffing the starving stomach with Cheetos instead of waiting just a few hours before a nourishing meal, we rob ourselves of what the spirit truly needs to be here, satisfied with God. Now you could seek spiritual quenching through an exciting quantum cosmic aura awakening, a Christian mission trip to Sri Lanka, or even a heart-lifting kirtan ceremony. None of which are bad per se. Yet even through these spiritual pursuits, things so quickly become a new facade. We fall in love again with the signposts that point to God instead of letting go of all the accoutrements that would veil God's face. So whether it's the repentant sinner, the successful entrepreneur, or the good dad, each new identity provides another mask for us to fit in the world that we've created. But the true self is beyond any of these displays. Uncovering the mysterious remains beneath all of this decorum is the voyage that very few are brave enough to step into. Are you willing? Because this is the war to purify, not acquire. It's the path to wisdom that much of our culture cannot embody. It's often lonely, it can be difficult, and it can feel very strange. But what if this is the calling beneath the distractions, the calling asking you to come back to yourself? Before I go any further, I just want to say something. Fuck your potential. I am so sick of these online wannabe gurus and self-help coaches talking about unlocking your fullest potential, manifesting the highest version of yourself. First off, they sound like my parents when they were disappointed in me when I brought home a D+ on my report card in algebra. We just want you to reach your full potential, Jesse. What the hell does that even mean? My full potential, your full potential. How do you even quantify that? What is that standard of full potential? How do you know when you got there? And then once you get there, you're pretty much good to go? To be clear, I never had any potential when it came to algebra. All right. As an artist, though, I want to create what feels important for myself to create. So your potential. These courses, these promises, and these shysters, it's just egotistic materialism dressed up in pseudo-spiritual bullshit, whether it's surface level Buddhism or Christian exceptionalism. Now, as someone who feeds off of meaningful inspiration, I understand the importance of finding some fuel to create movement in your life and improve your life. However, so many of these pseudo-spiritualists base their messages in the same original sin of wanting to be more than you are. So since you are so far from where you wish you were in life, they offer a way for you to work or buy your way into your version of heaven. The actual spiritual journey is to know God and to know yourself. The true self. It isn't to manifest your dream home with designer shoes. To know God is to be freed from worldly desires entirely, not twist higher pursuits in a perfectly curated Instagram profile to impress. This true spiritual awakening is harrowing and world-shaking, as is the feeling of pure love in a way that is beyond reason, because it often means letting go of almost everything you're familiar with. The spiritual initiation and the shadow. A man who lies to himself and listens to his own lie comes to a point where he does not discern any truth in himself or anywhere around him, and thus falls into disrespect towards himself and others. Not respecting anyone, he ceases to love, and having no love, he gives himself up to passions and coarse pleasures in order to occupy and amuse himself, and in his vices reaches complete bestiality, and it all comes from lying continually to others and himself. If Dostoevsky's words are true, these coarse pleasures are keeping you from being able to discern truth. This is a beautiful alarm sign, inviting you to follow the path back to your soul and explore. So in what ways are you lying to yourself? But more importantly, why would you feel the need to lie to yourself? This is what it means to face your shadow. There is no true light until you are willing to walk through the valley of the shadow of death. In what ways do these distractions, pleasures, and excuses help you avoid the Spirit of God that continues to whisper to you? At some point, the whisper will become drowned out. These many, many distractions are simply small sedatives to help take the edge off. They're luring you to a deep, dark sleep. Conversely, once you're actually willing to confront the dark pain that you would avoid, this can actually set you free from what secretly torments you. These are the core patterns of spiritual awakening. The quest to realize the true self is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong process, and often we have these spiritual awakening moments in certain ways, certain points in time, and it can be, in many ways throughout life, accumulative. And yet there is a discernible pattern among all spiritual awakenings. I'm going to share these with you. The modern vernacular would be like having your red pill moment. It's when you awaken from the lies of the matrix and see reality finally for what it really is. There's a shattering of the illusion. You're born again and the whole world looks different. Whatever the spiritual language or framework, there is a pattern that begins the process of full awakening. But just seeing that this world is fake and something's wrong, that's not the full journey. That's merely the very beginning. These are the 4 steps of the spiritual journey. Number 1, disillusionment. You realize that this world as it is being experienced is not giving you what your soul truly seeks. This disillusionment may look like depression, a sense of being lost, which is possibly triggered by loss or grief or burnout. And the soul begins to see the bullshit of the surface promises, the image, status, productivity, even success. Number 2, refusal to be numb. This is what I've been talking about. When you finally say, I will no longer numb myself just to survive. This is when the addict finally commits to treatment and gets help. It's where the seeker refuses to outsource their happiness, meaning, or self-worth, and accept the reality that pain is not to be avoided, but it is the pathway into the shadow. This is called repentance, or in some current spiritual language, it's been called rewilding. Number 3, inner reclamation, building a new practice, is when you say, if the world won't nurture my soul, I will. This step is where the new self is alchemized. This is the true beginning of spiritual life, not just ideology and not just empty belief, but practice. Across all teachings, all ancient traditions, what emerges is not uniform dogma, but universal inner habits. These core practices are silence and solitude, meditation, breath and prayer, return to presence, writing and reflection, reading and studying of wisdom, intentional creation, art, ritual, craft to express the eternal in finite form, and nature, reconnecting, reintegrating with the rhythm and ethos of the natural world which reflects eternal spiritual truths. These practices are spiritual hygiene. It emerges from the awakened soul to tend to the inner spirit's new needs, instead of imposing hard disciplines on how to behave or how to force yourself into a spiritual life. These are the ways you reclaim your attention. And number 4, embodiment. This is the outflow of number 3. Life is aligned with the soul, not spectacle. This is the true walk that you've been seeking. It's not necessary to join a monastery, perform on stage for millions of fans, or saving the world through an online coaching program. This is about living your life differently. The same life, with presence, slowness, simplicity, devotion to what actually matters. You don't need more. You live richly with what you have been given. The Zen monk sweeps the floor with contentment. A poet writes on a page with their morning coffee. The parent repeats the same game over and over with their child instead of scrolling on their phone. The artist works unseen, freed from the desire to be acclaimed. The old maid praises her new flowers that have arrived in her garden. It's not loud. It's not grand. It's not a show. It's radical and authentic. It's a rebellion from this culture's paradigm that is designed to addict, distract, and commodify you. So what do I do now? That is always the question. I can see the world differently. I feel what you're talking about, Jesse. So what do I do? This is the question. Perhaps do some ayahuasca, some shrooms. Go to the concert at the Sphere in Las Vegas. Maybe that'll do the trick, right? I don't know. Maybe. I wouldn't deny that there's some elevating experience to all of those things, perhaps. Be careful with ayahuasca. But if you go back to point 3, step 3 in the spiritual awakening journey, these are all thematically consistent practices that emerge in all spiritual frameworks. So pick any of those and start to integrate it into your life. But first, you actually have to be willing to step through number 2 and say, I refuse to numb myself anymore. If you can honestly say that, then what I'm going to propose to you is a practice in stage 3 that is so simple and pure. Write. Writing is embodied, physical. It can be done anywhere, anytime. And the reward is a rebellious act that your soul needs in this war. If there's a single discipline that I have found necessary for the connection of my soul and the articulation of my thoughts, it is the act of writing. This is the antithesis of the easy, quick results-based culture that says, just have AI write it up. If people cannot write well, they cannot think well. If they cannot think well, others will do their thinking for them. As I said earlier, the more we are willing to abdicate or surrender our deeply personal process, the more we lose ourselves. I'm not talking about just having AI write you a simple business email, or even help you structure an outline. I'm talking about writing to revive your life. Writing to explore your thoughts beyond the surface level. Writing articulates the voice beyond the programs that you have been running from your culture, your parents, and all the noise that you have been absorbing since the day you were born. Writing a poem to feel the voice of God speak through you. Write, rewrite, and rewrite. The first draft always sucks, and your first impulse is probably just old programming anyway. So go deeper. Writing can be arduous, but it is the gold that is mined in the process, is that connection to the self that the spiritual journey seeks. This is the true treasure that AI may be robbing from us. We artists may face a real existential crisis when we see how much better AI can pump out something in mere seconds that I am capable of ever creating. But that doesn't matter for your soul. How much of ourselves are we willing to abdicate? The power of writing for ourselves in our own words is the process of unearthing. My songs would not resonate with people to the degree that they do if I had just done covers of Johnny Cash. If I had not spent sometimes months combing over my lyrics and my delivery to get the feel and the resonance of truth, that these gifts would have been hidden in my heart and still locked away if I had not gone through that myself. While looking at a blank page can feel immense and daunting, it is also infinite with possibility. You have the power to explore the riches of your soul and create in the process. It doesn't have to be great. It just has to be honest. Let your imaginative spirit paint with colors across the eternal canvas that has no rules. The artist's role. The role of the artist takes on many forms. But my deepest concern right now, is how very few people, and artists especially, are willing to go deep. Each paper cut we give ourselves reduces our capacity. Distractions, corporations, greed, lust, fleeting pleasures have always been part of the struggle, but the sheer quantity and the ease is what's more concerning than ever. If you need joy in your life, the answer is not pursue pleasure. Joy disappears when you demand constant stimulation from the world instead of inner peace. Joy is the echo of full attention. And when you write, you can give yourself full attention to the pen, the paper, and you. Mindfulness is the doorway to depth, and the presence that you've been avoiding is the unseen homeland you felt calling beyond that dark horizon. The void is what most of the world fears viscerally, and yet, age after age, epoch after epoch, it is the artist who emboldens the individuals to venture into their void. The void where the unknown becomes experienced, and the glimmers of God are seen far more profoundly than the fear-based dogmatic structures of religion. The artist speaks in language that is spiritual, as it's a mystery that moves mountains that can confound the literal mind. And our culture has become more and more spiritual in language, but turned truth into performance for podcasts and social media rants. Meditations, spiritual retreats, these are all big business now and in the common vernacular. But how easily we look at the signposts and forget the true destination. When artists create their best work, it is as profound and present as the best meditation or drug-induced experience. Art exists in the present. It confronts, it cures, it opens. Yet this issue that I keep coming back to is how much of your own soul have you given up? How much depth have you surrendered, abdicated to ease, pleasure, and the surface? So here's your invitation. As you hear these words, you may feel its truth. It's probably something you've been feeling for some time or saying yourself maybe. Your eyes have opened and you look at this new path as described in step 1 and 2 of awakening. What now? Be honest. Are you willing to stop the self-deceit that Dostoevsky described? Can you honestly say that you will no longer accept a numb, sedated spirit? That is the first defiant and brave act in this war for your soul. The next practice is as simple as exploring the power in the pen. Write every day as a ritual that is moving from your internal alignment and not brutal discipline. You have an infinite spirit to explore and uncover, and the tool for that is the pen. Write. Romanticize writing if it helps. I do this. If you want to imagine yourself as like Hemingway on the shore of the ocean, if you want to think of yourself as like a 1950s poet in Paris, go for it. Romanticize this process. Grab a beautiful old journal or a pen that oozes black ink. Light a candle. Journal your day like it's a scene in a film, and then observe yourself in it. Express your thoughts on paper, then ask yourself if those thoughts are actually true. Write a love poem. Write a hate poem. Write your thoughts on God. Write all your blasphemous thoughts on God. And then feel God loving you back through your own words. You don't need to save the whole world for everyone, but you can save yours. Thank you for watching this video. If you made it here, thank you. Consider subscribing, liking. It took me a long time to write this message. I've been working on this, thinking about this, processing this for probably 3 or 4 months. Many drafts of this script. And that is part of me embodying what I feel is so important in this message. And so I actually gained a lot of my own awakening and discovery through writing. So I'm going to be focusing a lot on that. And if any of you are looking for just some guidance, feel free to reach out to me. As a little update, some of you may have known I talked about the Art and Void school community. That's no longer happening. I shut that down. But I'm moving forward with other ways that we can connect more deeply. And so if you would, make sure that you're subscribed so you can see the notifications. If you want to go to the website and join the newsletter, that way you get resources when they're available. And the last thing I'll mention before I wrap this up is I have a book out. I put out a book of meditations. It's called NIHILO, 33 Meditations for Artists. I will put a link down below. $9.99 I think for the paperback. It's like $12 or $13 for the hardcover. And so I I made it out of not really any ambition, but because I would wake up in the morning and I'd grab my journal or I'd try to get my day right. And last thing I wanted to do was reach for my phone. As soon as I reach for my phone, it's like too many things. So I wanted a physical book to reach and to sort of give me something to center and give me some prompting to get my mind and my spirit in the right place. So if that interests you, check out the book and order yourself a copy. Thanks again for being a part of this channel and being patient with me. It's been quite a few months since I posted, but I was taking some time to basically just rethink my vision here and how I can contribute and what's important for me in this space, with a lot of videos, a lot of entertainment, a lot of people telling people what to do with their lives, and how I can actually be of assistance and support. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.